Hello, everyone. I'm Heather Andrews, and I am the owner and founder of Follow It Through Publishing. And you have joined me today for the Let's Get Visible, Be Seen, Be Heard Through the Power of Your Story webinar. So I'm just going to bring this up, and then we are going to get started. I hope you have your pen and paper ready, because you will want to take notes during this time. Perfect. So when we talk about Let's Get Visible, it's time to tell your story. It's really through the impact of your story that it's what connects the world. And I have spoken with many, many authors over the last year about their stories. And these authors have owned what they've shared, and they've utilized their stories to leverage their careers, businesses, and lives in general. And that is what we are here to talk about with you today. So during our time together today, you're going to discover what's holding you back with the power of your story, and how you share your story in that powerful way that it can have impact on your life. And so when we think about that power of reinvention, how do we move from the space that we're in, that might be that we want to go live our dreams, and we keep telling ourselves these excuses, or I can't do this because of this or that, and those excuses and that fear that is holding us back. So when we talk about, this particular slide, it's like, I just ask you once again, like, what's affecting you in your life? How are you showing up to the world? Are you front and center, or hiding over in the shadows? And you do have the power to make discoveries regarding these questions. And these two things and how you answer these can lead to reinvention. So I just ask you to ask yourself once again, what is holding you back? And then how can you move forward through this space? And we're going to talk a lot about this today as I walk you through the steps to get visible. And so the question to also ask is, who is this slide for? If you are an entrepreneur, professional coach, consultant, speaker, or business owner, but yet you are frustrated because you have no way to reach your clients, but you're not sure how to get your message out them, or even what is your why, or what is the message that you want to get out to the story? Are you confused in that space? And I always say that you can't be a success and a secret at the same time. And are your messages clear? Are you providing mixed messages about where you want to go? And are you aligning to the messages that you want to share with the world and what you want to share with your clients? And then the last question is, are you hiding in the shadows, or are you afraid to be seen and heard? So I just want you to take a moment and just write that down, and just say, are you wanting something different? And just write down the quote. You can't be a success and a secret at the same time. And it comes into always what I talk about with the power of choice, because you can choose a different path. And then the next one is, we're going to talk about, imagine if you had a magic wand and you could create influence, impact, and income from the power of your story. What would that look like? How would you show up in your personal and your professional lives? And would this speak volumes to how it affects your visibility? And how do you gauge the amount of impact from your influence? Influence has a lot to do with how people ultimately trust you. And if people are still wondering what your message is, why you're doing what you're doing, and you don't have that relationship with them, it will affect this trust. How do you show up for other people? How do you become an influencer? How is this achieved? All of these factors affect the amount of income you bring in and how much impact you have on the world. The visibility portion of your life, whether it be career, business, or how you show up in your life and your relationships, is key. So if you're willing to take these factors and just ask those questions and come at it from a vulnerable space and just open up a little bit and trust a little bit to share your story, people will see that you are sharing that piece of you as well, from valuable information and an authentic space. And from that will be the result, because you show up real. The referrals will come in due to others seeing you in this valuable education space. They will trust you because you are the real deal. And this is all from a willingness to be vulnerable and share a significant piece of your life that has happened to you. And they come from that space of, this is also your driving motive for why you do what you do in your business, because you want to ultimately help and impact people to know that they're not alone in this world. And so why should you listen to me? It's always a very good question, and it's always, we never like to talk about ourselves, but I'm here to tell you that I have been there. I have hid in the shadows, and I have hid in, and I've told myself the stories that have held me back. But I also had to take a long, hard look at my self-worth. And I understand the feelings of being scared, being judged, and what I call the comparison theory. And those things are okay, but they're going to keep you held back, and they're going to keep you from preventing you from reaching the dreams and living your life full of passion and purpose, if you let these things hold you back. And my team and I can provide you the support and all of the coaching tools that you need. And I've spent numerous amounts of money on courses, and not necessarily that I needed it. But the other thing too is I've made tons and tons of mistakes throughout my journey as an entrepreneur. And I've rebranded 4 times in this process. And the amazing part is that, you know, I used to think of myself as a failure because I had to rebrand, and everybody else in the social media realm was that perfect brand. They nailed it the first time and then they went. And that's not the case. It's so not the case. And in some ways I'm bringing this to you because it takes you time to build your business. And I've spent much about money, but I can also tell you that it doesn't need to be that way for you. My team and I, we have figured it out, and we bring the support, the coaching, we've collaborated with other people, and we bring the tools and the strategies to help you conquer all of these hindering emotions. And if anything, I will write a book on what not to do rather than what to do, because I've made so many mistakes. But now, because I have learned from those mistakes and I've asked the questions, what am I supposed to take away from this? And I've taken everything of what not to do and I've put it into my business, and now I can tell you what to do, and I am in my zone of genius. I am in that space because I figured it out and I moved forward, and it was all about belief of self, and then just being open to those opportunities to come. And now today I am running a 6-figure business and making a difference in the world of lives and the lives of my clients. And they're going out and living a more empowered life because of the mistakes that I made, that I'm now sharing with you of what not to do and teaching you what to do so that you can have that space too. And that is why I am so glad that you've joined me today. Here's one of our beautiful, beautiful souls, Corby Furrow. And once again, you know, she just basically says that, you know, I provide a seamless process in the way that I present my book, how I present my book writing publishing company, and how we take you through the journey. And that, yes, I genuinely care about each and every one of co-authors and solo authors that actually come and write with us. And Corby was wrote in our self-love book, and she stated that, you know, we came at everything from an honored place, and that meant so much to me. And Corby is an EFT specialist and a Catalyst transformational coach living in Edmonton, Alberta, and her business has exploded since she has stepped into that visibility space. So my story matters, and so does yours. And my story is really one about, in 2015, I was a healthcare worker and manager. I'd been in that profession for 27 years, but I was yet, even though I was confident in my role, I was full of doubt. And then I was stressed out because I was looking at all the external cues and looking for self-validation through that process. And it didn't work. And through all of the things that happened, I then got restructured out, quote unquote. And even though I knew that the universe was moving me on, it did take me about a year to recover from that space and move into a different, I call it the reinvention. So I basically always talk about it being hashtag reinvented to hashtag restructured to reinvented, because it just goes to show that even though life is going one way, and if you pray long and hard enough, and sometimes even without knowing what you don't know, the universe has a way of repurposing you for something different, something bigger, and it has to take you down this road of lessons learned. And that is why the power of story was so important. But I also knew during this process that something had to change, because after I got restructured out, I really had that space of identity loss, fear, shame, rejection, because I kept thinking, what did I do wrong in that space? Why did this happen to me? And who was I without my job title? And so there was that space of loss that took place, and I had to go out and rediscover what it was that I wanted for my life. I didn't want just another job. I wanted to go out and take everything that I learned and move through that space. And through different transformational courses that I did and different coaches that I hired and bringing the right people into my life, I had my breakthrough. And it took me from 2016 to today to have the breakthrough and build what it was that I wanted for my life and what I was directed to supposed to be doing. And that is to be here with you today as a business owner. And I have my publishing agency, my podcast network. I was nominated for Entrepreneur of the Year. I'm a national speaker, 6-time best-selling author, radio host, podcaster with over 50 interviewees, and I've had 95% business growth. And even though it says 75 best-selling authors in the last 12 months, we just recently released a book that took 83 co-authors to best-selling status for our company. So we are now sitting with those statistics under our belt, and that is really when something bad can happen. If you learn to open up and just through the things that we're going to talk about today, you can choose a different path. It takes time, and it takes hard work, and it takes focus, and it takes belief. And that is that is one of the key pieces of getting visible. And this is another client testimonial. And this is Lisa Bovey. And she wrote in our book, The Real Journey of the Empowered Mom Boss. And her story is one of repurposing after she lost her son to a devastating car accident. And she flew over from the United Kingdom in October for my event. And I am just so treasured to know her and so blessed, because she spoke at our event about how she repurposed her life. And this is just what she had to say with working with us, is just, my team is responsive, attentive, and caring. And we just want you to bring your personal story to the world so that you can have that empowered life. And just know that you can be repurposed for something different, just as Lisa was through one devastating tragedy that happened to her. So why am I teaching this? Why am I teaching about being seen, being heard, and learning the power of your story? Because I have learned, after listening to so many people tell me their stories in the last 2 years, that there is such power within our story, especially when we take the shame out of it and the fear out of it, and we stop listening to our head to keep us safe, that there's such power within us, and we have so much to teach. And once you can break through the barriers so that you know that your story is worthy enough to share. I've seen it firsthand, not only in my own story, but so many of the lives of the co-authors and solo authors. And this has been so impactful that we have helped thousands of people know that they're not alone in their journey. And people have reached out to me and told us that our authors have impacted them, and they now have chosen a different path. And some of them have come back and said, can I now share my story with the world? And so this is done through your shifting of your belief and your mindset around your life experience. And this is to embrace your story, whether it's good, bad, or ugly. And that is just taking power and ownership of that, and not living and coming at it from a place of empowerment, and just knowing that there's a difference that can be made in somebody else's life, and they might sleep a little bit differently at night because of where you come from. And once you embrace your story, you understand your why, and it's your motivation. And this creates a bond with the reader who can relate and benefit from your story. And that's that vulnerability. And with vulnerability, it equals influence, because it creates that trusting factor. And that's with you as a business owner, in a relationship, or being a mentor to somebody else by just putting your hand out and saying, come. Because that's what's happened. Somebody that I looked up to was a few steps ahead of me on her journey, and she said, come with me. And I did. Because sometimes when we don't have that belief in ourselves, we have to maybe borrow it from somebody else, borrow their belief in us. And you can write that one down. So pick up your pen right now and write this down. When I don't have belief in myself, I can borrow someone else's. Because someone out there, if you don't have it in your life right now, I believe in you. And if that's all you need to take away today, is that, know that I believe in you. And once this trust is built through that, and you start to believe in yourself a little bit more and embrace that space, a community begins to form, because people are looking to you and those opportunities that come. And this is where you can start serving others, and through the power of your story and through the power of your business, being an entrepreneur, this is where the money will start to move through, because you come at a place of it from service. And when you serve more, you can make more, because you're beginning to have that credibility and that impact, and people refer to you in your business. And the more that you are open to receive that, the bigger the impact you will have. So what you're going to discover in this today is we're going to talk about what I call the 3 C's. And I've talked a little bit about this as we've been going through our slides. And it's really about choice is our number 1. We're going to talk about connection to self and the world. And we're going to talk about creation, because once you realize a different choice, make a different connection, and you learn the power of your story, it gives you the power to go out and create something different and new. And that, my friends, is the power of creation. So the power of your choice, it's how do you decide to show up is your choice. And you have to ask yourself, thoughts are a choice. How are you thinking? How are you talking to yourself? And are you showing up as lit up as a flashlight or as dim as a dead battery? Because sometimes when we talk about this, it really talks about, the perception of what we think. And this is one of my favorite quotes around fear. We do not fear the unknown. We fear what we think we know about the unknown. And the root cause of fear is that belief of we are not enough. And when you start to learn a different perception of that belief changes, the excuses you tell yourself change, and the shame changes around it. And we talked a little bit about that in the previous slide, where I had to make a shift, and you have to believe in something different. And this is why this slide, it's so key, because it's really about your belief and how you talk to yourself, and really how you are thinking that everything is happening. And so when we know the power of choice, we can really ask ourselves those questions. And we have to also take away from this is the power of choice, and realize that it's our life experiences that make us unique, and how we choose to view them will shift everything for us and how we show up in the world. But it's first of all how you perceive you and the choice that you're going to make in that space. And the first way to really ask those questions around this is, what have you overcome to be here? What did you conquer to be here? And a perfect example of this is our group of women out of Reno, Nevada, who made a choice in this book to share about subjects like kidnapping, prostitution, severe depression, and a host of other intense issues of things that happened to them. And yes, when they wrote this book, they were scared. They were scared about how they would be judged, but they also knew that they wanted to believe that there was hope on the other side for other people. And they realized that that they would have a positive outcome, a peacefulness, gratitude, and knowledge of helping others. And they received so many aha moments along the way that they are standing in bonding now, and they are going out and teaching the world how to move through this process in their life. So once again, I'm just going to ask you to take a moment and just think about, write down on your pen and paper, what have you conquered to be here? And this will shift how you begin to view your story and know how powerful it is. So what do you need to do? You need to take a look on the internal side. You need to go and look within. And this really is a great quote, and I love this one. And it says, "A day will come when the story inside you will want to breathe on its own. And that's when you'll begin to write." And once again, when you're sitting with me on this webinar today, so there must be something drawing you to being seen, being heard, and wanting more and having more of an impact. And so how do we do that? Your story is starting to percolate within you. But how do we do this? And so how do we ask? You have to ask yourself, what am I afraid of talking about the most? And why? What upsets me the most? And what do you need to get off your chest? And by changing the personal dialogue that you have, you can always ask yourself, would you talk to your friends the same way you talk to yourselves? And would you still have many friends if the talk was this negative? And you have to listen to really what is in your heart and approach life from that perspective. And this is my good friend, Dr. Erin Oxall. And she was a beautiful, beautiful soul. And she had fear around her story, and she had shame. And she knew that she wasn't so sure she wanted to share it, because she thought that her doctor's practice may plummet if she shared her story. But she came in on my first book, Obstacles Equal Opportunity, and once she made a choice and started to tell herself a different story, everything changed for her. And her business began to soar because she became relatable and vulnerable. And our story goes beyond our book. We have actually joined forces and are building a business together in the new year. And it's going to be epic, because we too have been on that journey of being scared, have lived in the shadows, and now we are coming into the spotlight. And honestly, it has been such a great ride for 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 us, and it can be for you. And I just want you to know that once again, the quote around borrow my belief until you find your own, and you can write that down. Borrow my belief in you until you find your own about yourself. And I believe in this, and so will my team. Just as we have with all the co-authors that you've seen so far, you plug into the support and you just let everything go, and you begin to trust others to guide you. And that's when you'll begin to find experience, freedom, and empowerment, a different scribe, a different tribe, and a community that will support you on this journey. And that is how we connect to ourself and the world, through that self-worth, internal talk, and looking from within, and then you could show up better for the world. And what's self-love got to do with it? As I was walking through my journey of connection to the world and to my tribe, I asked myself so often, what did self-love have to do with it? And through my journey of being an entrepreneur and just even a mom, everything, the answer to this question was everything. And this was 14 beautiful, soulful women came together on this topic of self-love, and we became best-selling authors together. We thrived together. And this also became a bestseller on Amazon. And since then, its journey has not ended. We got profiled in a high-profile magazine called OM Times Magazine, and we were featured on a OM Times radio with Lisa Berry. And this was an absolute epic event for our authors, because it emulated where they came from, the journeys that they made, and how self-love and how they viewed it changed everything for them. And it was through this that they shared their vulnerabilities, and this affected their influence, impact, and income. And every single woman has had a story from the launch of this book and how it's affected their life in a positive way, and not to mention the hundreds that have read this book that have gone on to change their lives as well. So what do you need to do? And once again, we're going to ask yourself, what am I afraid of about talking about? What upsets me the most? And what do I need to get off my chest? Because these are very, very important questions, and that's why I put them through again, because I really want you to ask yourself after this slide, after this presentation today, what have I conquered to be here? What have I overcome? What lessons have I learned? And what am I supposed to be teaching to this world so that others can be impacted by my story? And when you start to ask yourself those questions and you move through those spaces, your business, how you show up in your life, for your kids, for your husband, and even for yourself, and you change the dialogue around how you're talking to yourself in the mirror and the belief that you have, and you start to move from a place of shame to total on power within that story, and you move over that line, it will shift everything for you, as it has for all of the authors and solo authors that we have published. And this is another client testimonial. This is Roslyn Fung. She wrote the expert opinion and her own story of self-love, because there was a point in her life where she didn't really think so highly of herself. And now she is creating a wonderful tribe in Edmonton, Alberta, and she is helping women unleash their inner Wonder Woman, and it is so cool. And this is just one of those things that she said about writing with us, was the journey was so smooth, supportive, and flawless, uplifting and encouraging and inspiring. My team is incredible, and they will take the overwhelm out of it. And so this just goes to show, once again, that when you join in with the tribe, it's supportive and uplifting and encouraging. And you too can have this when you decide to move through the power of your story. And as we move through this, we've made different choices. We've learned to connect. We've learned to believe in a different way. We can now go out and create, because we've released the old story and the messages that we're telling ourselves around this. We create space to go out and learn the power of reinvention. And the power of reinvention is just learning to release and let go. And yes, it is a process. And yes, might be work to be done. And it's making different choices. And when you decide to move through the space of sharing your story, our team will help you develop those strategies to move through that space and help you release and let go and help inspire others. And there's a piece of being open and making a different choice. And I keep talking about the different choices because it is really the essence of everything, because it begins with you. And that change has to begin with you. If you want something different, you have to think differently, be different, act different, want different. And your outcome will change. But it has to come from within you first. And you have to have a bit of fluidity, surrendering to the process, adaptability, and then and trust the outcome. And sometimes that is the hardest part, is trusting and allowing the how, as my good friend Dr. Erin Oxall would say. Sometimes we don't have all the answers, but we have to trust that it's coming. And if we're in this path, there's a reason. And when we start to move through knowing that our story has to be shared with the world, this is the key point of where the power of reinvention, so that you can live out your passion and purpose and influence, impact into the world. And this is just the power of reinvention. This was one of the books that I compiled with, was Lisa Bovey's book, Guided by Grief. And it came out last year in 2018. And it is an amazing book about how grief needs to be talked about and healed from, and we have to be kind. And it's loss. And there's many, many different forms of loss, because we have loved something or someone. And we've moved through, Elisa Donahue wrote A Shop Girl's Tale, and she is an amazing young lady who wants to write and inspire. And she has put her book into the New York Public Library, and she's on Barnes and Noble shelves. And she just wrote this book, because sometimes you need a little push before you can leap. And was she scared to share her story with the world? Yes, but this is a fiction about a shop girl's tale and the things that she learned within that space, and it is an amazing book. We have one of my teammates and editors and best-selling author, Suzanne Lavoie, writing Night Shift, and she's doing her second volume of this book, and it hit bestseller. And we have Temesgen Star, whose book gets launched in 2019, and he talks about confidence and how, when you understand that space of confidence within yourself and self-worth, self-love, you are not smaller than the room. You can emulate and shine in that space. And then we have Nikki Chown Palace, and she wrote a book about putting the pieces together, and it's your survival guide to the first 5 years in business. And every single one of these, what they have in common with these wonderful people and our co-authors that I've mentioned earlier throughout the thing, is they too had questions around whether their story, their writing, and nonfiction, fiction, what they brought to the world was good enough. And they've all hit best-selling author, and they've all hit, and they're out sharing their message with the world because they decided to step into the spotlight and not stay within the shadows anymore. And Night Shift has also been picked up by the New Jersey Mental Health Library. And had they not jumped into that space, stopped telling themselves limiting beliefs, limiting mindsets, and stepped into this new space, and they made the leap, that was when the reinvention happened for their life. And so what do you need to do? You can ask yourself once again around leaving, what would be your miracle story? What legacy do you want to leave? who do you want the key players to be in your story? Do you want new players to come in, or do you want the old players that have been telling you things, all these negative things that have been keeping you down? And the key player might even be you reinvented. And so what would be the main goal realized in your story? And to date, my story is one that I am a messenger now, put on this world to be a story collector and help inspire others share theirs through book, digital, and voice, through audio and podcasting. And that is where I just ask you to know where do you want to go from where you sit today? Where do you want to go in your story? Because you have the power and the choice, the connection to self, and the power to create something different. And this is Marsha O'Malley. I met her in Reno, and she was in my book, The Real Journey of the Empowered Mom Boss. And she says, I waited 23 years to tell my story. Heather gave me a safe place to do so in the Empowered Mom Boss book, and it took the time and the shame and it felt like it had been lifted off of my shoulders. Some people carry their stories till their deathbed. And sometimes we carry that as shame, and really it's only meant to inspire others to know that they're not alone. And I just encourage you to look at your story a little differently and know that by sharing, releasing, let go, a huge weight can be lifted off your shoulders, as it was off Marsha's when you join our team. So right now you've discovered the 3 C's. We've talked about choice, connection, and creation. And when we start to move through these spaces and we have our why, we begin to move through becoming an influencer because we have vulnerability and we start to be creating trust. Then we have more of an impact because people come to us because they trust us. And then through that, when we have impact, we serve more, the money will, and allow the how, the money will flow. And so when we talk about this and we talk about leaving your legacy, this is the one where I really encourage you to be the one that your great grandkids talk about. And if you only leave here with one thing today, this is the one that I hope that impacts you the most. This was Ryan. He came to us in early 2018, and unfortunately, he did not make it past his 29th birthday. He passed away, and his legacy is his son. And so I just really ask you, none of our tomorrows are guaranteed. So I look to you today to ask you, consider your story from a different perspective. Consider the powerful space an impact that you can have on people's lives through the power of your story. So how do I make this happen? How did our authors, Tamaskin Starr, Danielle Lynn, Suzanne LeBoy, Nikki Powless, Lisa Bovee, and Elisa Donahue, and all of the co-authors in Obstacles Equal Opportunity, What Self-Love Got to Do with It, Reno Rising, and The Real Journey of the Empowered Mom Boss. How did they make this happen? Well, they just stepped in and they believed that their story was needed in the world to inspire others. And they came to us to help them make this happen. And they had a bigger dream, and they decided that they wanted to take that step and be that person in the world and listen what they were being called to do. And so when we talk about the power of story, we have two things that we can do. You can do trial and error, and I have experienced a lot of trial and error, not just through publishing, but in my own entrepreneurial journey. And this is where, when I did trial and error, and I did it on my own, and I tried to emulate what other people had done, and I didn't have a mentor or a team to help me, I lost time. But then I finally got smart and I became a part of something bigger. I hired a mentor to help me move through my new business space. And I got better results, and I got them more quickly. And it's the same thing with choosing. You can go the do-it-yourself route on telling your story in the world through branding, messaging, publishing, anything like that, and doing it on your own and not having a community to pull from for feedback. Or you can come and you can be a part of a team, a community, a network that you can plug into so that you can get your results quickly, and you can turn around your story, and you have support through the fear that may happen, the beliefs that might come up, and things like that. So this is where I say that I now would choose getting results quickly and having support and being a part of a community, because you are not meant to do life alone, and you are not meant to do your business alone. And this is why I invite you at this time to come and join us on this process. And so this is why I'm introducing compilation books. This is where we have had The Real Power, The Real Journey of the Empowered Mom Boss, Obstacles Equal Opportunity, What Self-Love Got to Do with It. And we are launching 3 more compilations like this. And I invite you to consider contacting me at the end of the webinar to set up a time to talk about this, so that you too can have the same opportunities that these co-authors in these books have had. We have books, Money Matters, Mindset About Money. We have Obstacles Equal Opportunities, Volume 2, coming out, backed by popular demand. And we have our Balance Smalunch book, and it's all about, can balance really be had in the busy world today? And so who is this not for? Once again, I'm going to ask you to write down, you can't be a success and a secret at the same time. So I just ask you to say, is this for the person that wants to stay in the background? Is that you? Or do you want to start to move into the spotlight? You have no interest in making a difference in someone's life. You're just going to keep your story to yourself, and know that somebody else out there needs your story, but you have no interest in that. And that's okay. But you also want to stay continuously on a low island, on the lone island, and try to continue to do it yourself. Or you can come along and you can join a team, and you can have a mentorship and have people that will love on you for your story and have that shared with you. So what you will receive a hybrid 17-step solution to help you share your story with the world in 120 days in a one and done for you platform. You become friends with 20 other co-authors. You discover your zones of genius and brilliance. Some of the other outcomes that happen from what you receive is that you understand what it feels like to be an author. And you will learn the true power of your story once you walk through this process. So we offer you publishing, editing, support, and resources. And you will have access to increasing your visibility on social media and the world as a whole. Our team is ready for you, and we have the tools that are ready for you, and we have everything that you need, and we give that to you. So what you will receive as part of a compilation is you receive the services of a ghostwriter to help you get your story down on paper. the full editing of the manuscript which means structural and copy edits for support. And your story will be included in a collection of true short stories with 10 to 14 to 16 amazing individuals. And that value point, you can see it below. We have done for you services including our promotional video, graphics, and launch day package with waiting list links. You receive a hard copy ebook and audiobook that you can share and use for passive income. We provide you with the social media calendar and marketing strategy as long and to the global distribution of this book. You also receive support from myself personally, and you receive our coaching and consulting and proven strategies. Because as I said, we have 83 co-authors and solo authors that have become best-selling authors with us. And the last time I checked, that's how many we published, and that's 100%. You learn how to market your book to your audience in your local area, online and offline. You learn how to promote yourself personally as part of a compilation. You get exposure to podcasts, radio, and magazines. We help you with that publicity and your book launch. So what I'm offering you as a bonus when you consider this is a 2-hour mastermind call with me personally to overcome your barriers, getting clear on the impact that you want to have in the world and the strategy for your story so that you can leverage it in your next steps as you become more visible, credible, have more influence and impact, and how you grow that in your business so that you can have additional revenue streams with this space. And also learning how true the impact, the story that you have will be. We give you 3 podcast interviews on the Heather Andrews Show, and we help you speak with confidence to your story. You get that coaching with us. We help you expose your story on 5 different platforms and 130 countries. What do you think this can help you do with your visibility, having that type of sharing on social media? That gives you visibility, and this is how you create your influence and your impact. So by making a choice today and connecting to that space of knowing that your story is powerful, you can begin to create something new through what I'm offering today. And the true value of this is $15,000. You get, once again, you get the publishing, the ghostwriting, the done for you service, and access to the proven marketing strategies that you can use as a skill set to move you forward in your social media message and your branding. And you have your story out there to the world. You become more visible in Google because you have an Amazon profile and worldwide distribution. And today, the regular value of this is $4,997. And I just ask you, for today, we are giving this to you for $24.97. And that's the one and done for you platform in 120 days. We take you through everything step by step. So I just ask for you, be the first one to order now and receive the 10 benefits to consider when publishing your book. There is a free download within this, and it's also on my website, followitthroughpublishing.com. And so my personal guarantee for you is when you choose to work with me to publish your book, I will provide for you the following. We have our publishing in a professional and developedly designed book. You get full-on editing with your final stamp of approval. We give you access to us and my team in a Facebook group for support, encouragement, and collaboration. And we give you marketing templates to help you promote the digital launch of your book. And we are there to support you throughout that. If this sounds like this is something that you are ready for, it's time my friends, to tell your story. It's time for you to realize the power, the huge power, and the impact and the influence that you can have to help somebody be inspired by your story. So I ask you to book a call with me today, and we will move forward, and you can tell me your story, and we will find out the best way to help you share your story with the world. You can look at the link below, follow it through .as.me/tell-your-story. You will receive, once again, the publishing, the done for you services, which includes the graphics, access to the strategies, and the 3 bonuses. And you save over $12,000 in this process. By just booking a call with me, you have access to this today. I ask you once again, it's time to tell your story. Book your free discovery call with me today, and you have access to a life-altering event. Use this link to book the call, and I can't wait to meet you and talk to you and hear your story. But remember to go back to the 3 C's, to choose a different path so that you can have more income, create the reinvention, connect to more support, leave your legacy, because the world is more hungry now for reclamation and healing than it's ever been. So I ask you today to be seen, be heard, book your call with me, and it's time to tell your story. There's the link again, just in case you missed it. Pick up your pen and write it down. www.followithtru.me/tell-your-story. I can't wait to meet you on the other side, and I'm so excited to help you share your story with the world and have the beginnings of more influence, impact, and income in your life by taking one simple step today and booking that call with me. I'm so excited to meet you on the other side, and I am just so grateful that you joined us today. And I can't tell you enough how much your story matters to the world. Thank you for joining, and we'll see you on the other side.